steering's broken. I don't think it's got any brakes either.
Should be right.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, you scared the crap out of me. What are you doing, man?
Hot out here.
So much for safety belts.
Did you drive over that? Is that what happened?
That you drove over it.
You went for gold and I just took off.
You fell out. Welcome back to the Super Factory. I'm Al, that's Woody behind the camera, and this is my Cox Stockman lawnmower. This has spent years making my lawn mint. Good quality Australian built mower. Was perfect until I lent it to my mate Millsi to start his lawn mowing business and got it back a bit later with no mowing bits under it. Not much use anymore. This thing over here, this patinaed mess over here, is Woody's racing mower. We bought that from down the road. It's been in a paddock, covered in a tarp.
Bit of a barn find, Al.
It's a bit of a barn find or paddock find or just a rusted mess, depending on how you look at it. But the good thing about it is it's got a near new Kohler 990cc V-Twin engine in it, which is a good thing. If you think the way I think, you know what's going to happen. With the help of our friends from SuperCheap Auto, we're going to make the Cox super.
There's no arguing that people love their cars.
We weren't arguing.
They talk about their cars, sing about their cars. Some people even look like their car. Whether it's an old car, new old car, fast car, family car, electric car, race car, two-wheel car, no-wheel car, or a car you know's parked around here somewhere. People who love their cars love to tinker with them. Some people tinker big, some people tinker small, some people tinker some degree between those two variables.
Whose voice is that?
And that's where SuperCheap Auto comes in. We've been helping people tinker for 50 years. For people like Bill, Lucy, Kevin, other Kevin.
Oi, get off my car!
Didn't catch this guy's name.
It's Kevin.
Not Patrick. He doesn't shop with us. Whoever you are, whatever you drive, we'll help you make it super. Because Super is our middle name. Well, technically it's our first.
Today's episode is sponsored by our good friends over at SuperCheap Auto. They've got a new look and now they're all about helping you make it super, whoever you are and whatever you drive. We're having a chat to our mate Reese down there at SuperCheap Auto and he said to us, hey, what would you make super? Alan and I are going to experiment with the whatever you drive scheme of things. So without further ado, introducing the SUPER COX. We're going to do an engine swap on this thing. We're going to dump it on its guts, fix the brakes up, and we're going to make it super. So it's going to be the SUPER COX. We've got a bunch of work to get done, starting off with stripping this thing down and getting it sandblasted. So let's get stuck into it. The Cox Stockman is an Australian designed and built lawnmower that's been in production since 1993. The Cox company was founded in Brisbane in the 1950s. Al's owned his Cox for over 10 years and it's been a very trusty steed within that time. The Coxman is powered by an 11.5 horsepower Briggs Stratton single-cylinder engine and drive is provided via V-belts and a cone-type forward and reverse system. The only parts we plan to keep are the steering components and the bare chassis. Majority of the leftovers will end up as scrap metal or donated to our mate Sebi for him to sell on Marketplace. We're going to reuse these wheels?
Maybe.
Original tans. They're tans, but it keeps them clean.
You can drill them to 5x114 and put them on the Sylvia. Turns out the Cox was quite the complicated beast. It's all in bits now. Most of it will go into the scrap bin. We'll keep the chassis of it, take it up to Kohler sandblast and get it blasted off so we're back to bare metal and can figure out what we're going to do. We've got to go and do a shop at SuperCheap to get some bits and pieces, and then we will pull apart this ginormous thing and get all the good stuff out of it. Let's go.
We dropped the stuff off to Kohler sandblasted to get sandblasted, and now we're in at SuperCheap Auto. Not only do we need some tools, but we also need to get some supplies for the mower so that we can make the Cox Super.
Filter, oil.
Every race mower has electric start, you gotta have a battery.
Tough nuts. Named after me, bros.
Valve caps, racing pedals, and also an air filter. What about a boost gauge?
Doesn't have boost.
Not yet.
True. Eyeballs, earballs.
Someone broke the welder, so we're gonna need it. Replacement.
You broke the welder, not someone.
Someone broke the welder, it wasn't me.
It was you.
You just can't blame everything on me.
I do.
Degreaser. Always on sale at SuperCheap.
You heard of them?
Who's that, Mighty Car Mods?
Yeah.
I think so.
If you're not on the Tool Pro train yet, get on it. It's good stuff. Really well priced and been durability tested from day one by us, believe.
While we're down here at SuperCheap, Alan mentioned it'd be a good idea to do a giveaway. So we've got these two OBD2 scanners. If you own yourself a Volkswagen with a constant engine light on, you need to clear it. You're gonna need yourself one of these. We've got two to give away. All you gotta do is comment below what you'd make super, and we'll pick a random comment and announce it maybe next episode or episode after.
I'm gonna pick the comment I like the best, not a random one.
Sure, pick the comment you like the best. What would you make super? I would make my Pajero super.
I'd make my Cox super.
I'm not sure if you know this, Alan, but it's actually your shout.
I shouted you lunch yesterday.
So yeah, you get this and then I'll get your lunch today.
No.
That's fair.
No, it's not.
What happens if you freeze a degreaser can?
I know what happens when you put them in a fire. I don't know about freezing them. When you're building project cars, you've got to comply with a lot of regulations, safety regs, customers' needs, how much power, all these things. It's got to not fall apart. You don't have to do any of that with a mower. It's sweet. You can just get your old Cox out of the backyard, hit it with the grinder, and get creative. I love it. We cut up the old Cox chassis, got rid of all the bits that don't need to be there anymore, got it down on the ground, and now we're just sort of figuring things out. We got the Kohler in there, bolted straight in on the original mounts, no dramas there. We've cut up the front axle just to work out width and height. Rear axle's just dangling around in there waiting for us to figure out how to mount it. We've got the seat on there that's been recycled from a previous SuperCheap project. Now we just got to work out how to tie it all together. I think I'm going to need some tunes to help me along with this. You got any smooth jazz?
Yeah, how about this?
Nah, it's not working for me. Got anything heavier?
Or like some metal?
Yeah, that'll do it.
We had the chassis sandblasted and coated in primer. This gives us a clean slate to work with and also presented us with any corrosion issues that required repairing. Weld-through primer can be blasted over with the MIG, but it is recommended to remove the coating for supreme penetration and minimal contamination. Some 3mm Litton's steel plate is being used as a base plate for the floor. Combined with some box steel, this will create maximum strength so the axle can be bolted as far back as possible.
The Super Cox is really starting to take shape now. We've extended the chassis at the back here, mounted the axle. I've got 65 by 35 by 3mm box tube on there. It's pretty stiff, it's looking good. Basically just made it all fit. A bit of customization here to make the chain clear. So you kind of got to think of everything at once, which takes a bit of mocking up and dropping down and doing it, and sometimes doing over, but it's all doable. All this chain stuff, we already had that right angle gearbox and this gear here and this axle off the old race mower. This chain stuff here I just got from an industrial farming supply shop. It was on the shelf, so it's all common stuff that you just basically modify to suit your application. They have weld-on chain gears, so it's really easy to get things to work the way you want it to. And most of it's just all locked on with like grub screw and keyways, so it's all doable. The axle's probably your biggest thing, but that's also something you can just buy. So the steering is in progress. That's sort of both mainly just going to be Cox standard steering, but just extended because we've widened the axle and moved it further forward. The seat, it's going to mount straight on. We've discarded the brackets we were going to use. We're just going to mount it straight on because the lower the better when you've got a mower. So it saves you from tipping it over as easy, as Woody would tell you from his experiences. Otherwise, it's going really well. I'm happy with it. I'll give the old SIG welder the new SIG welder a very hard workout. I'd say I'd probably call it durability testing in the hands of me. It welds pretty good. It's only 135 amps, so it's pretty easy for me to cook it, getting some peno. So other than that, everything's going good. We've got to flip it over, start working on some steering, mount the engine, and work out the drive from this gearbox to the engine. Don't get your fingers eaten on those steering bits again.
As Al mentioned, we're using the standard Cox steering, so how that works is basically, it used to have a shaft coming down onto a cog, and then it drives a chain. Sprocket. Cog, sprocket, same?
A cog goes to another cog, a sprocket goes to a chain.
Okay, to a sprocket.
Or chain wheel if you're in England, I found out.
And then that drives a front sprocket cog, which then drives the tie rods.
It's not a sprocket cog, it's just a sprocket.
That explained it well, did it not?
So steering here, turn, you got your
tie rods.
They're the new tie rods. I obviously had to extend them. They just go to here and off you go. The catch is the standard ratio is 2.7 to 1, so you've got 9 teeth here and 25 there.
We're not using a steering wheel anymore.
So you obviously can go like that with a steering wheel, but we're using a set of handlebars, so we've got controls on the handlebars for brake and throttle. So we've had to change the steering ratio. So I made that plate and shaft to replace this, and this sprocket here I've actually stolen off my son's old BMX. It's been sitting under the house for years because it was there, and it's 25 tooth, and so is that. So we've got a 1-to-1 ratio now. So we've got heaps of leverage because we've got wide bars, so you can just steer really quickly like that.
How much angle do you reckon it's going to be? We don't know yet.
45 degrees.
Okay, so from there, so
it'll just tuck in, about there.
I reckon the handlebars are better too. When we did race the mowers, we both had handlebars because they were motorbike engines anyway.
You could also hold on with your legs. Cause
so it's kind of like
holding on's a thing.
Locking in with your legs, and then you're holding on with your arms too, which is good. So it's going to work well. Righto. Now it's cut and weld stuff, eh?
It's all been cut and weld the whole time. So yeah.
So now more welding and
continue.
more cutting. Having the correct machinery in the workshop is a massive help when it comes to customising parts, but it's worth noting that all of this fabrication can still be achieved with a grinder and a battery drill.
We nearly worked our way through all the mechanical stuff. We've got steering working good. We've just been working on the drive from the one-way clutch or the centrifugal clutch to the right angle gearbox. You can see the chains on there now. Everything's rotating right through to the axle. So we're just going to do a few last checks, make sure we don't need anything more fabricated or welded, and then we'll pull it all apart and start painting things.
How much power does that right angle gearbox hold?
We will find out when you drive it, I would imagine, because that's probably going to be the test.
Who gets the first drive?
I don't know. I will, because if you drive it first, it'll break.
We have got all the fabrication done on the mower now, stuff like the rear guards, fuel tank mount. We've got some chain guards and sprocket guards on the back here too. Al's made the exhaust, which is just a couple of zoomies off the cylinder heads there, and also made up a pretty sweet intake straight off a carby. We've just done some wiring on the mower, which Al will talking about in a second. It's pretty simple, but in the meantime, I'm going to do a little oil change.
So these things don't require much. It's just like any stationary engine. It's actually just, if you crank the engine hard enough, it'll go. If it's got fuel, it's just got an inductive ignition system. All it really has is, in this case, it's got a little solenoid on the carby to stop it from running on, so that just gets ignition. And the only other wire that we need is the kill switch wire, which basically grounds out the coil so the engine will stop. So we've got that hooked up to a sort of like a marine or water sport setup, because if we fall off, or when Woody falls off...
Why me? I'm not going to fall off.
Don't want the thing to keep going into town. So that's all hooked up. We've got an oil pressure gauge on it just because we wanted something to fill that hole that was there, because that was for an hour meter. So that's in there. Probably not a bad idea to know oil pressure on this thing. It's a pretty big motor, and it's only got 1.5 litres or 1.9 litres of oil capacity. So the gauge, we probably won't be able to see it because we're too busy holding on, but anyway, it's there and it's filling the hole. I've just got an ignition switch which basically just powers this little solenoid and turns on the oil pressure gauge. That's all it really does. The start button just goes straight from the battery straight to the starter motor. This particular motor has actually got a car type starter motor with a solenoid on the side of it, so it's a lot easier to mess around with than a normal mower, which has an external solenoid and that sort of thing, which invariably don't work properly. So that's a sweet setup. We're just going to throw some oil in it, and I think we've probably got to take some stuff off the bottom of it because nothing's really bolted on properly yet, and we might try and fire it up on some carby cleaner or something.
How much oil does this thing?
So we can hear it.
How much oil does this thing take?
It says 1.9.
Can you hold that funnel? 1.9, you reckon?
Semi-synthetic 1030, you reckon?
Should put some lemon squash racing oil in there.
Yeah, we could. That's the highest quality oil on the market.
All right.
That's what they use in top fuelers.
1.9, what do you reckon?
You put 1.9.
It's either going to be bang on or over.
What about the oil filter? You've got to fill that up.
Yeah, true that. Also, don't forget about our giveaway. We've got some OBD2 scanners to give away. There's 2 of them. Oh, bang on. Yeah, once you do the filter, add some more. All you gotta do is leave a comment below and let us know what you would make super.
This might be particularly useful for you if you've got a Volkswagen or anything in the Volkswagen group. Audi, Skoda, Porsche. Actually, pretty much any car made in Europe. Probably going to need this to turn off that light that comes on in 5 minutes.
All right, so now that there's oil, can we fire that up, yeah?
No, you need to...
Or can we crank it?
Yeah.
So can I just test that oil pressure works? No, nothing will happen, eh? There's no fuel.
No.
Is that sprocket going to come flying off?
No.
We have no oil pressure. It's moving the gauge actually now. Don't do that. Let's take the sprocket off.
It'll come up by itself this way.
Alrighty, so if you want to come over here, I'll show you the starting procedure for this fine automobile. So straight up, we've got our kill switch. If this is off, everything still works, but it's not going to run because the coils are grounded. So kill switch on. This one we can wrap around our leg just in case we fall off. Then we've got ignition on, got our voltage gauge and our oil pressure, which we can change colour if we want to. Let's go the super cheap red. And fire away, Alan. You want to go give it a quick squeeze and then we hit the start button. All right. It's going to be super loud, eh? Ready? That sounds like a Harley, man, legit. We have to put mufflers or something, that's way too loud.
A bit too highly tuned for a Harley, but...
Dude, that is super loud.
Sounds all right to me.
So you can probably judge by the microphone distorting how loud it is. Can we put them into like a big muffler or something? No?
How many Harleys do you see with mufflers on? It's not
I'm gonna need some Louis Vuittons and then a bum bag to drive this thing.
Is that what Harley wearers wear now? We shouldn't be paying out on Harley people.
True that.
Go again.
To test that kill switch actually. Yeah. I think I got smashed with some spark plug tips or something then.
The fuel mixture was sound.
Stoich. Okay, so there's one running Harley Davidson mower, and now we've basically got to pull everything back off this and paint it. We've got some paint mix up from SuperCheap with the new colours, and I'm going to lay some of the red down. Bit of red, bit of black, yellow somewhere. I said yellow wheels, but then Al pointed out it would look like a Wiggles car, so probably not suitable.
Copyright.
Is it? It probably would be, eh?
Maybe.
No, come on. So yeah, pull it down, paint it up, and then we'll get some SuperCheap Auto livery on the sides. Hearing your project fire up for the first time would be one of the most exciting parts of the build, but seeing your project in its final form is the most rewarding. All of your hard work pays off when you get to stand back and admire the work of art you've created. If you're an impatient individual like Al, then painting may not be the job for you. Majority of the work is in the preparation. Any imperfections in the surface will show straight through the paint no matter how thick the coat. Lucky for us, we're only building a mower that's eventually going to be covered in mud, so the final finish doesn't need to be picture perfect, but we're still doing the best job we can given the circumstances. All of the bare metal has been sanded down using some 240 grit pads on our Tool Pro sanders. Wax and grease remover then removes any contaminants from the surface before some epoxy primer is mixed up and painted onto the chassis. This gives the bare metal protection from corrosion and also helps with adhesion for the base coat of paint. I'll admit, I'm no professional painter, but I was very impressed with the quality of the Black Ridge gun and also the colour we had mixed at SuperCheap Auto. One thing I've learned is to spray the hard to reach areas like corners and edges first with a nozzle set to narrow. A wider spray pattern is then used to cover wider and flatter areas. Other components of the mower have been coated in an industrial black that's usually used for truck chassis. This blends in well with the red and also protects any of the bare metal components from rusting. Down. Down.
Up. I've built a lot of cool cars with big engineering over the years, but there was something strangely satisfying about building this mower from start to finish in a short amount of time. I got to use a lot of my machinery and equipment and stuff in a way that I don't always get to do. We recycled everything out of both mowers right down to machining down shafts to make other things, and it looks really cool. So I'm really stoked with this, which people probably wouldn't expect, but I just love this thing. It looks so cool.
It does.
Woody's paint job came up absolutely mint.
You reckon?
He's got an eye for colour and that sort of thing. So yeah,
I think because it's got a lot of sentimental value to Alan too, being that it has been his ride-on for the last, 5 years?
More than that.
So,
10 years
yeah.
Until Millsi stole it.
We've just had some stickers arrive too to go all over it. Some livery, so
Livery.
Livery.
Decals, livery.
Livery. There's no
Livery. Yeah.
SuperCheap Auto, the SUPER COX sticker going on the side. Sorry, and we've got a couple of our own stickers to go on it too. But we're itching to take it for a drive, take it for a ride it.
I need to, yeah, it's not you don't drive it, you ride it, because it's a ride-on.
Do you want to go first or me?
Yeah.
I'll probably break it if I go first.
You will, yeah. It's absolutely.
All right. Here you go, I'll give you some of these. What was that?
Those batteries.
Yeah, how good are they? Basically a drift car now.
Well, I think it's probably better built than most drift cars.
Hang on, where can I put this that I can get some flame action? All right. Pre-start checks. Have you got brakes? Yeah, sweet. Battery voltage. Let me just have a squeeze. Sweet. Oil pressure, oh, it's at 0. No, it's all good.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm good. stuff. You know how we're meant to be racing this thing tomorrow?
I don't think that clutch is rated to what they suggested it would be. Maybe I'll have to ask William.
That was just... Can we like direct drive it somehow? No?
Not really. We'll work it out.
What, until tomorrow?
I'll just... La 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 la. Unfortunately, the test ride didn't go to plan. We've absolutely destroyed the clutch, set it on fire. We'll get that sorted, but for now, let's whack on some livery, so at least it looks good.
We've built some cool projects over the years, and one thing's for sure, that feeling you get when the project is ready to leave the shed is something that's irreplaceable. That's why we love what we do. Drag cars, drift cars, street cars, four-wheel drives, and even turbo mowers. We're all about making anything super, and we'll continue to do so until we no longer can. Ladies and gentlemen, the Super Cox. This thing is looking absolutely fine with the stickers on there. Just tops it off, it looks really good. Huge thanks to SuperCheap Auto for supporting the build and making the Cox super. Stay tuned and visit your local SuperCheap Auto store. It might be on display there.
Maybe.
Yep. We've got a few things to finish it off. First things first, these tyres are about 20 years old and they're not really designed to do the speeds we want it to do. And also the clutch, we can't even get it up to speed anyway because the clutch is buggered, so we've got to sort that one out too.
Clutch was a bit of a miscommunication. I think they assumed that this engine was only a normal size lawnmower engine when it's in fact a 990cc V-Twin, and it makes a lot of power and more so lots of torque.
Doesn't it make like more torque than, what are you saying, a Harley or something, wasn't it, yeah?
More torque than an Iron 883 Harley, so I guess it's the smallest Harley engine, but that gives you a bit of an idea about what sort of engine this is. It is an industrial engine, so that little clutch just obviously smoked up as soon as I put the throttle down, or I didn't even do that. But anyway, we're getting it sorted. Our mate William Yarwon't from ProjectX Racing, go-kart specialist, he's sorting that out for us. As soon as we get that, we'll whack it on and head out to the closest paddock and see if Woody can tip it over.
Are we going to do like time trials or something, or how are we going to do this?
As long as it stays on its wheels, I don't care what happens. So maybe I should just drive.
I bought one of those neck braces actually, especially for this. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us for the build. As Al said before, it's been really cool to build this thing, and we're stoked. It's really good. Al's put a lot of hours into this thing, and it's cool to smash something out and kind of get it done, I suppose. Yeah, making it super.
Now we just got to get out there and have a bit of fun in it. So that'll be next. So stay tuned. We're not done with the Super Cox. You'll see it in a paddock near you. Thanks for watching.
Sweet.